welcome into the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 12. I'm Cade Crackister alongside Coach Geiser. And Coach, it's back for another episode. How are we feeling?
I'm feeling great.
Good.
We're still alive in the playoffs, so that's always a good feeling.
Exactly, no doubt about it. Again, that final score between Ashland University and Minnesota Duluth, 32-7. You guys able to come away with a pretty comfortable victory, at least in that scoring margin. But as we open up the show here today, talking about that victory, how nice is it to get a playoff victory, obviously, here in the opening week?
It was huge. I mean, that was the fourth week in a row we're playing at Jack Miller Stadium, and you know we love to play in front of our home fans. You could feel the energy, and our guys fed off of that, and were able to perform to a big win.
And obviously we'll kind of dive a little bit more in depth into that contest later in the show, but I've got to ask you here in the Open because, you know, thinking of the Open, you think back to the game against Minnesota Duluth, and on the opening drive they were able to find the end zone. How did your team rally and not let that opening score really dictate the rest of the contest?
Well, I think we're more than anything, there was disappointment on our end, the fact that we set them up with a short field. And you know, we didn't execute on the kickoff with the ball placement. And so a perfect storm for them. We kicked it to the middle of the field for a field return, not to get too much in the weeds. And with our coverage skewed the opposite way, you know, it was kind of a self-inflicted wound. So we have a lot of guys on that travel squad that have played in the postseason the last 3 years, and they didn't lose their poise. You know, they realized it's a long game. We're going to have many opportunities and didn't panic, and we're able to play right through that. Yeah,
and now you guys shift gears and kind of take a look at this next round of the playoffs. You guys will be taking on Ferris State on the road up in Michigan. Your initial thoughts?
Well, you get a chance to play the best. They're defending national champions, perennial national champions. Tony Anise has probably built the best program in the country. And so you got a chance to go shoot your shot against the best team in the country.
And who do we have coming on the show today, Coach?
Well, we've got Riley Weiss, senior safety and punt and kick returner, and then also our secondary coach and recruiting coordinator, Dominic Orsini.
Well, sounds like it'll be a great show, Coach. We'll step aside for a moment here. We'll join you all back soon as we get on to the rest of the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 12, right here on the Eagle Network.
Ashland University, tradition meets innovation. From academic success to championship athletic programs, Ashland University is a place where students discover their passion and prepare for life after college. With small class sizes, dedicated faculty, and an active campus community, Eagles soar higher here in Ashland. This message is brought to you by Barefoot Floors in Ashland, Ohio, serving residential and commercial flooring needs in Ashland and surrounding areas for the past 38 years.
Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 12. I'm WRDL correspondent Louis Tamira.
And I'm AUTV correspondent Bryce Gatton.
And now, Coach, we're here to break down this last week's matchup here in round 1 of the playoffs and your victory over Minnesota Duluth. First and foremost, it was a pretty dominant 32-7 win for you guys at home. Just your overall thoughts.
I thought in all 3 phases it was probably our best game so far, and I was extremely happy with that. We played a clean game, number 1. No turnovers. We forced 4 or 5 turnovers on their part, limited penalties, and you saw guys performing explosive plays on all 3 phases. And so it was a very nice game to play as your best game of the year in the first round of the playoffs.
And Coach, Chris Maloney continued to impress and have a breakout. What makes him so dynamic as a running back as only a freshman?
He's fast. He's very fast. I could have one-worded you there, but I won't do that to you. So, but he's explosive. And when he sees a crease, he can take it to the house. It's kind of one of those in my 36 years of coaching. You every once in a while you see players that you hold your breath every time the ball is in their hands because they can't take it the distance. I think Chris is one of those guys, and we're lucky we have him.
And then you guys got yet another block kick. What preparation and kind of mentality do you guys have to go into that to lead the nation in block kicks?
Well, it starts on the field goal PAT team with Andy Tabler, the coach in charge of that, and then with the punt team, it starts with Dominic Orsini. And every week they're looking to scheme up blocks to take advantage of what the protection is. And they're both very diligent about it, very detail-oriented. And the great thing is our guys have bought into that. We've had a lot of success with it the last 3 years. And so they want to be the next one. So it's almost like everybody's drank the Kool-Aid at this point. So the nice thing about it, you think back, go back game to 2-3 years against Finley. Now when we get in a situation in a game where we need to block this kick, guys don't panic. They don't try to do something they haven't done before. They've been there, they've done it. They expect to do it. And so that expectation as opposed to a hope is one of the most powerful things in the world.
Coming into this game, Minnesota Duluth had a pretty solid quarterback in Kyle Walljasper, on the ground, through the air, only threw 5 interceptions, but you caused him to throw 2 in that playoff game. What were some of those defensive schemes you threw at him?
Well, it starts with Tim Rose. And we did some things coverage-wise, kind of mixing things up and maybe showing an illusion of things we hadn't shown during the year. And, and everything gets kind of sped up too when you see a pass rush headed by a Mike Shimmick or an Elisha Baldridge. So when you're under duress and you're seeing maybe a picture that you hadn't prepared for, that can be troublesome. But and I will say this though, he is still a hell of a quarterback. We said maybe got the best of him that day, but he's one of the best quarterbacks in the nation.
Yeah, absolutely. The stat sheet definitely showed that coming into that game. But you talk about the 3 phases of the game and how it was probably your best 3-sided football game of the year. What kind of coaches do you want to shout out, from all 3 of those phases?
Well, I actually shouted out the coaches in our staff meeting on Sunday, and I complimented them when we got together and I said, really everything started with the game plan you guys put together on all 3 phases. And being able to have a chance to teach it to the players, practice it enough so they could go out and execute it at a high level. It really started, all the coaches on staff did a great job in preparation this week.
Absolutely.
You mentioned how well the defense played, and especially the defensive line. How do you guys now build off the momentum that you had in that game and going into Ferris State?
Well, anytime that you practice, anytime you play, you're building habits. And so they've had habits during the year now where they've had success, and it kind of ingrains that into them right now. So it's on to the next challenge. It makes them very, very confident in their preparation every single week. And then, that confidence hopefully, carries over this week against Ferris State. They got a heck of an offensive line.
Well, we talk about from Bulldogs to Bulldogs, We'll talk about it plenty in depth in the show. Just their overall thoughts on Ferris State as you prepare for this battle.
Yeah, well, Ferris is a very, very high-powered attack, averaging over 50 points a game. That's kind of tradition for them. So when you go into this game, it already puts some pressure on you mentally thinking, hey, we've got to be able to score to stay with this team. But then, by the way, they have one of the best defenses in the country too. And I almost kind of liken them to kind of like a boa constrictor. If you're going to get them, you better get them early because once the guys get a feel for what you're doing scheme-wise, the noose just tightens and tightens throughout the game. And so it's a big challenge, not to mention, with all the athletes they have on special teams, you get those athletes in space making plays. So it's a 3-pronged attack, and we're going to have to be on point to be able to give them a battle.
All right. Well, good luck to you, Coach, this week, and
Appreciate
thanks for
it.
sitting down with us. We'll take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. You're watching The Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 12.
Need a construction team that can do it all? Bo Lacey Construction delivers experience you can trust, done right on time, with free estimates and special financing offered for roofing, siding, gutters, windows, bathrooms, decks, to the highest standards of excellence, quality, and knowledge in the industry. Bring your next project to life with Bo Lacey Construction.
Budget, save, invest. A plan to help you make smart retirement choices today. Your future self will thank you.
This ad has been provided by Donald M. Graham and Associates, where our dedicated team will help you meet life's complex financial challenges. Call today to schedule your visit at 1-800-322-6116. Securities and advisory services are offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, member FINRA SIPC.
Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 12. I'm Cade Krakish alongside Coach Geiser, and now Coach Orsini. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you on, and well, obviously, first and foremost, big win for the guys this past weekend. Your thoughts on the win over Minnesota Duluth?
Yeah, I thought it was a complete game from our team in all 3 phases, and a clean game, and that's how you win playoff football.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Coach, obviously, your titles, safeties and recruiting coordinator. We'll focus on the safeties here to begin. A big showing from them against the Bulldogs, and honestly, a big showing from them all year long. Kind of your thoughts on how the safeties have played.
Yeah, when we talked earlier in the year, we talked about this safety group, this whole DB room being the deepest room, at least in my tenure here. And I think that was just been on full display all season. Having additions like Izzy Vasquez, DJ Butler, I think helped start it all. And just those young guys, week after week, they just keep getting better and better. And, we were talking a little bit ago, Chaz Cole. What a performance that was. So to see those young guys continue to get better throughout the season is a great sign for a coach, and the future should be pretty bright for that room.
Yeah, and you look at one guy particularly who's kind of stood out, I wouldn't say a bit more than the rest, but at least, you see his name pop up in the stat column a lot, and that's Izzy. And you look at his play this season, he's been a ball hawk, right spot, right time, picking balls out of the sky. How important is it to get guys not only who are making tackles and making plays, but getting the ball back for the offense?
Yeah, possession is the name of the game today, right? And to have a guy who can find the ball, have the instincts that he has out there every play, obviously equates to big plays and turnovers, and that's what we got to do as a defense. So to bring in a guy like that who can not only play the pass really well, but come down and make all those hits that we see week after week, I think he's kind of the model going forward of what we want to bring in, if we are going to bring in a transfer.
Of course. And Coach Geiser, you look at, the safety room and how they've played this year. Obviously, we heard Coach Orsini's thoughts, but kind of yours as well?
I would definitely agree with that. I think one of the best things that happened to EJ Tia was Izzy Vasquez joining our team.
Yeah,
absolutely. And both with his play, but also his leadership ability. And we've seen EJ's play skyrocket, and also his leadership. He's really taken charge of that secondary in the meeting room, on the field. He's kind of like a coach on the field right now, and that's been a real neat dynamic to see his growth with that. And then you also look at guys like Jelon Jackson has stepped forward, and Isaac Brooks, and you add a DJ Butler to the mix with a Marquise Scott and a Nick Sailors, Riley Weiss, who's had a tremendous career for us, as well. And it's been very nice for me to see, because that's the last line of defense on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
And so if you got guys there that are able to erase big plays, that's what you want out of that room.
And Coach Orsini, you take a look at two young guys who we just mentioned, and I was going to get to them here, but it's Nick Sailors and Chaz Cole, two guys who have stood out exceptionally well in just random scenarios. Almost it feels like. How do you have that next man up mentality in that room?
Yeah, I think those guys really buy into the family that we're trying to create within that room, and they're always supporting each other, always pushing each other, and I think they just learn from those older guys. So, as they continue to improve, they continue to help those guys out on Saturdays, and they relish that opportunity. We always talk about you only get so many, and all those guys that get those opportunities on Saturday have been, doing really, really well with all those opportunities.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Chaz Cole specifically. I was dumbfounded by how well he played in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Just for the audience's recap purposes, was able to jump on top of the squib kick to start the third quarter, an interception, a fumble recovery, a couple big open field tackles. He just came out of nowhere and played such a pivotal role for the defense. How important is it to have him come out there and do what he did to really halt the Bulldogs and any sort of momentum they thought they were going to grab?
When we talked in the staff meeting the next day, to have a freshman who really hasn't played that much because of Izzy's play all year, I haven't had to use him.
Yeah.
So for him to step in a moment like that and create all those big plays and all that momentum for us, and really not skip a beat once Izzy left the game was just amazing. I told him after the game that was the most proudest moment I've had as a coach, in my tenure, just for that opportunity for a young guy to step in there and relish that opportunity.
Of course. And shifting gears, taking a look at your other roles with the team and the program, you look at the recruiting side of things. Obviously, the good thing is you guys are still playing,
yes.
still dancing in the playoffs
Yes.
right now. The unfortunate side of that is you guys got to get ready for the recruiting side of things. So how do you balance both, getting ready for game day, but also, hey, we got to prepare this next class of recruits?
Yeah, the good thing is we had experience last year with the same situation,
Yeah.
so it's kind of becoming a yearly thing for our program, which is a good thing. But yeah, I think as we always talk about with recruiting, it doesn't just start at the start of the season or at the end of their senior season. This starts all the way back in their spring of their junior year. So especially our top guys that we've been on, we've been talking to them all the way since, sophomore, junior year. And we know the moment for signing day has moved up year after year, earlier and earlier. And I think we're just out ahead of the game. We know who our top guys are at this point. We know who we want to get on campus. And we really have to have plan A, plan B, plan C, because you never know when the season's going to end. But we're going to be ready for that moment and always be ready to get our guys in here, hopefully before the holidays, so we can get some signees, earlier than later.
Of course. And the nice thing, too, is that obviously with you guys continuing, that looks good for the program. Is that something that you see recruits take notice of? Is that something you try to preach to them? Like, all right, you guys could be playing in this similar situation if you guys come here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody wants to go play for a winning program, and especially if you had that in high school, that's the field that you want to have going forward in college. So I know when I was a recruit, that was one of the first things I looked at was hop on the athletic site and kind of just look at their tradition. You know, the last 5 years, have they been winning? Did they just start winning? Is it a new coach? You know, all of the above. So for us to continue to add to those signs outside the Troop Center of conference championships and playoff appearances, I think that's the best thing going forward for the program.
Of course. And Coach Geiser, you look at kind of the recruiting side of things, and obviously being the head coach, everyone's going to be looking at you and what you're doing. How do you balance that aspect as well? You know, obviously you're really busy right now, you know, trying to, you know, lead this team into the playoffs and see how long you guys can keep winning for. How do you balance that with still making time for the recruits?
Well, what you do, you try to stay as organized as possible. And for me, it's usually Friday mornings, believe it or not, Friday mornings, early afternoon, is I take the time to contact recruits. And so they kind of know, you know, especially the guys we've offered up to this point, they're hearing from the head coach at least once a week on Friday morning or Friday afternoon. You just kind of wish them luck when they're going during the season or in the playoffs. And you know, for me, my thing is kind of, I'm a big motivational guy, motivational pieces. So I like to give them something on their text that's not necessarily just Ashland. Just give them something to kind of stimulate their juices a little bit, give them a little food for thought. You know, so it keeps Ashland on the brain without hitting them over the head with it.
Of course. Well, Coach Rossini, I appreciate your time today. My final question for you, look at Ferris State. What do they offer? What does this game mean?
Yeah, Ferris State, always a high-powered offense. You know, they're going to have us on our toes every single play, but we just got to basically match their energy, stop the big play, stop the run game. You know, it's Ferris State. You know, they're going to make their big plays, but what's the answer after those big plays? That's going to be the big question mark going into the game.
Of course. Well, I appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Kay.
Yeah. We'll step aside, join you back here soon. A reminder, you don't want to miss out on what's to come right here on The Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 12. Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 12. I'm Cade Krankister alongside Coach Geiser, and now safety Riley Weiss. Riley, thanks for joining us.
Yep, thanks for having me.
And I forgot to mention as well, also kickoff and punt returner. And speaking of which, this past week, a nice 17-yard return for you, and also a win against Minnesota Duluth. Your thoughts on the victory?
Yeah, it was a great victory. I think it was huge for this program to be able to win one here at home in front of our fans, something that we did in 2022, and I was here to witness that, so I'm glad I got to witness the last 2 home playoff wins. I just know how big that is for this community and just everybody involved in this program, and then recruits coming in and stuff like that. It's just huge for the program.
Yeah, and Riley, that's the nice thing. You're someone who's been around the program for a while now, and you understand what Jack Miller Stadium means to not only the community, but to you guys, the players, the coaching staff, everything of that sorts. But looking at your play on the field this year, you've really kind of taken over this nice role with the special team side of things, being a really big return guy. But, you know, throwing it all the way back to that game against Kentucky Wesleyan, had a punt return for a touchdown. Going back to that moment, what's going through your head as you're able to take that one for 6?
It was a big sigh of relief, kind of running down the sidelines. You know, I finally had gotten one in my 3 years returning. Something we work for every week, scheming up the returns, and just try to do a good sound job every week on that. So it was huge. It was exciting for me, exciting for my family to be able to be there in the stands to see that too. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and Coach Geiser, speaking back to that moment, I know we talked about it on the Doug Geiser show the week after it happened, but returns like that, they obviously shift the game, and they're obviously big hits when the special teams, I think, can make an impact like that. How important is it to see Riley go out there and make those types of plays?
It's huge, man. I had a chance to recruit Riley when I was an assistant many moons ago.
Yeah.
Was it 5 years ago now?
Yeah.
5 years ago, and just to see his growth overall, not only as a player, because he was a dominant player in high school at Tays Valley, and he was the guy, the straw that stirs the drink, to quote a cliche, and to see his development on the college level now as a scholarship player, but also his growth as a young man and a leader. And it's been neat to see that, be around for that, and I'm extremely proud of the impact he's had on our program.
And Riley, speaking on your leadership side of it, how have you risen to that occasion and taken those responsibilities on here this season?
Yeah, just being a fifth-year guy, someone that's been here for some years, you kind of understand that you have to step up and start being a little bit more of a leader, and just being able to talk to these young guys and coach them up and kind of see them. I was in the same position, kind of confused, walking around, always had questions. So being able to help them, like I was helped from some of the leaders when I was here, it's a full circle, and it's really, really nice.
Yeah, and Riley, is there any guys specifically that you've kind of taken under your wing and really kind of helped to grow as a young player in this program?
Kind of. I wouldn't say I'd helped this guy grow, but EJ Tia, just someone who came in, he played under me for a little bit, and then seeing him kind of get to play over me is really nice to see. Me and him have a close relationship, and just being able to support him through everything he's going through and watch him ball out has been really fun.
Yeah, and we kind of talked to Coach Orsini earlier in today's episode about the safety room and how dominant they've been this year. How nice is that to be able to be a part of and see, and obviously as a leader on this team, you're looking at this team right now making a playoff push.
Yeah, I think it's the deepest room since I've been here. Just the depth is what really gives us our strength, and all the knowledge that everybody has and the experience, I think, all ties in. And then Coach Orsini, of course, just the cherry on top, getting us right every week, and just making sure our mentality is there.
Yeah, and speaking of getting right every week, obviously you guys have a tough one this coming weekend up against Ferris State, undefeated, one of the top offenses in the country. And we've talked about the rivalry and the history of Ashland versus Ferris State. When you hear the team Ferris State be said, what comes to mind?
Just another football team. It's a great opportunity for us to go out there and prove who we are. We understand the ramifications of this game. It's a round 2 playoff game, so regardless of who it is, we got to go out there and do our jobs on all 3 phases of the game, and play a sound game, and we'll be fine. It doesn't matter who we're playing.
Yeah. And Riley, too, obviously, my last question for you, your senior season, obviously it's your last year with the program. What has this year meant to you?
It's been a lot. Tried to take it all in, The beautiful thing about the playoffs is you could be done last week, you could be done in 4 more weeks, you know what I'm saying? So just being able to take everything in these last few days, last few weeks of the season, and learn as much as I can while I'm still here, and teach as much as I can while I'm still here, and it's been great.
Well, Riley, I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. We'll step aside, join you guys back here soon, but thanks so much so far for tuning into the Doug Geiser Show. Don't go anywhere.
At Ashland University, tradition meets innovation. From academic success to championship athletic programs, Ashland University is a place where students discover their passion and prepare for life after college. With small class sizes, dedicated faculty, and an active campus community, Eagles soar higher here in Ashland. This message is brought to you by Barefoot Floors in Ashland, Ohio, serving residential and commercial flooring needs in Ashland and surrounding areas for the past 38 years.
Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show, Year 3, Episode 12. I'm Cade Krakus alongside Coach Geiser. And Coach, it's our final segment of the day.
That's great. That's been a great show so far. Let's see how we can wrap it up.
Exactly. And well, you guys know, the audience at least knows how we always wrap up these shows. And it's talking about this past week a little bit and then highlighting the next week to come. So, leaving off Minnesota Duluth here, obviously a pretty comfortable win for you guys in terms of the scoring column. You look at all three sides of the ball. From my personal opinion, it looked like that was one of the most complete games AU's played this year. Is that kind of how you took it, or from the coaching side, what'd you see?
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. It was the best game we played so far. That's the way I would put it. All three phases together. All three had key plays and momentum swings during the game. And so I was very, very, very encouraged by that, and hopefully we can keep it going.
Yeah, and when you look at some of the key contributors on the team, obviously we got to take a look at one in particular. That's Chris Maloney, who in the running game continued to be incredibly efficient. 21 carries, 155 yards, and a touchdown. His emergence late in the season, what has that meant to the team?
It's been huge. We were kind of lacking explosive runs throughout the season, and with Chris's injection into the offense, we've already started to have the explosive runs, and that's a key thing in an offense, because you can't always chunk it and go 4 plays at a time on 20-play drives. You need to have explosive plays in the run game, in the pass game, and Chris has been a key component with that in our late run.
Yeah, and shifting gears, taking a look at Ferris State, a team that you guys know very well as a program, former GLIAC foes. Your first and initial thoughts when Ferris State is said?
You think about excellence. You think about big. You think about physical, explosive offense, a kind of a boa constrictor type of defense, and a lot of athletes in space on special teams. So it's a big challenge whenever you set foot to go on the field with a Tony Anese coach team. He's got a staff that's been there for a while and very experienced, been in big games. So you always look at it as a big challenge and a big opportunity.
Yeah, no doubt. And a team that you guys faced earlier in the season in the Findlay Oilers, they were an undefeated team at the time. Ferris State as well, they're undefeated. When you go up against a team who hasn't won a game, obviously you oftentimes hear the team that's undefeated talk about how you're almost waiting for that loss to happen. Now you're in the playoffs, you can have that. So as a coach, going up against an undefeated team, what does that present?
You don't even really think about the undefeated part, really.
Okay.
What you do is, today, is our big game plan day. You look at their system. We're obviously very familiar with them. We've played them a lot through the years when we were in the GLIAC, and then the last couple of years we played them non-conference. Are they running the same system? Who are the people running that system? Do they have any possible weaknesses, which I haven't seen very many yet?
Yeah.
What are their strengths? You should kind of compare with that. You don't get into the record per se, other than the fact that they're a good team, and they're one of the top 16 teams in the country at this point, and so all the teams are good if you made the playoffs. So it's a big challenge there, and so you find out what they do, what part of your schemes can maybe help take advantage of that, and then you start worried about the Eagles and our execution and making sure we're on point to be able to show up for that game.
Yeah, and speaking of preparation and being on point, when you take a look at your team this week, what does the schedule kind of look like? Obviously, it's a bit different, but Thanksgiving's right in the mix.
Absolutely. You have to, you're being on the road. We'll be on the road for the first time in 5 weeks. Okay, so you have that. Thanksgiving's a little bit of I don't want to say monkey wrench, but a little bit of a challenge in the middle of it. So as we talked about on Sunday with the team, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday are exactly the same as in season. Wednesday we will practice in the morning, and then we'll let some of the scout team go home, get an extra day at home. We'll come back and practice Thursday morning, send everybody home, let them enjoy Thanksgiving with their family. And then they'll come back on Friday morning for meetings before we take off for Ferris State at 10:30.
Yeah, and you take a look at a trip to Ferris State and to Michigan. Yeah, it's another state you guys will be going to. And you kind of mentioned it there, but it's been a long season. Obviously, we're in Thanksgiving. It feels like we're almost to Christmas. But when you look at how long the year's been, how do you make sure all the bodies are ready to go at this point in the campaign?
Well, what you do is you kind of manage the length of practice and the hitting you get throughout the season. So for example, a normal practice for us is 25 periods, 5 minutes per period. So just a little bit over 2 hours, 2 hours, 5 minutes. By week 7, we cut the periods to 4.5 minutes. So that's going to cut off a good 12 and a half, 13 minutes of practice right there. And then by week 9, we cut it back to 4-minute periods. We still expect to get the same number of reps. It just increases the speed, the pace of the practice, and you're a little bit sharper at that point. You mitigate the hits a little bit from that point. So maybe ramp up a couple more sets in the weight room. That's kind of how we manage the long season normally.
Yeah, and we talked about the preparation for this week and preparing for Ferris State. Any position groups particularly, or any systems of your guys' game that your guys are going to be kind of honing in on, focusing with?
Well, I think anytime that you play a Ferris State team, they are dominant on the offensive and defensive lines, and most people can't get past that. That's kind of the secret to their success. And so a big challenge for our offensive and defensive lines this week, trying to get a chance to control the line of scrimmage. That'll be a big key to the game.
Yeah, and Coach, obviously it's going to be a bit of a trip up north for you guys and for the fans alike as well. How important would their support be if they came on the road to support you guys?
It's huge. It's huge, and it'll be kind of maybe make it Jack Miller Stadium North if we could with that. I know it won't be the same type of crowd or size of crowd, but anybody who comes to support us in person is definitely appreciated, and we'll feed off of that energy.
Of course, Coach. Well, good luck this week, and I appreciate your time this week.
Appreciate it.
We'll step aside and join you back next time when we return for the Doug Geiser Show Year 3. But for now, that's all we got. Again, a reminder that the Ashland University Eagles will take on Ferris State on Saturday, November 29th, with that game time set for 1 p.m. We'll catch you guys next time. Thanks so much for tuning in right here on the Eagle Network.